Hey, welcome back everybody. Today's lesson is going to cover circumference, but more of an algebraic approach to the circumference. We're going to kind of, in a lot of these examples, we're going to have the circumference already given. And the objective is going to be trying to figure out the diameter or the radius. And if you are given the diameter, what I mean by that is if you're given a circumference of a circle, you should be able to figure out one of those two things. There's actually a lot you can do with that, especially when you know the algebra. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, so in this first example, as well as I think pretty much all the examples here, we're going to use 3.14 for pi. So make sure you're not using, like I said yesterday, make sure you're not using your pi button necessarily, which I said it's not a bad thing to do, which is using your pi button, but you're not going to get the exact answer that I'm looking for if you don't. The first example here says find the diameter of the following, and we're given the circumference down here. It says the circumference is 20.41, so 20 and 41 hundredths of an inch. All right, so what we're going to do is kind of start off with the circumference formula. Now, circumference equals pi times diameter. Pi times diameter, you can also write like this. Pi times diameter equals circumference. It really doesn't matter the order in which you write it. In this case, we know that 3.14 is pi. So I'm going to write 3.14. In this example right here, for example 1, we don't know what the diameter is. So we'll just call that D. D for diameter. You can really use any letter, but I'm going to use D. And then we're going to make that equal to the circumference. And the circumference is given for us, which is 20.41. So there's your equation. Pi times diameter equals circumference. That's what's going on there. Pi times diameter equals circumference. So how do we solve this problem? Well, this is a basic one-step equation. So when you have a number, I know this is a decimal in this case, but we have a number next to a letter, you divide both sides by that number. So we're going to basically divide both sides by pi. You're going to probably do this on most of the examples today. Those cancel each other off, and now it's just a matter of you guys figuring out what 20.41 divided by 3.14 is. And if you did everything right, you should have ended up with 6.5, 6.5. So we got 6.5 inches on this particular example. And that was pretty easy, wouldn't you say? All right, going on to number 2 here. This one says find the radius of the following circle. So this time around, again, we're going to use 3.14 for pi. So what do we do here? All right, so again, we're going to use the formula. So pi times diameter equals circumference, right? Now on this particular problem, we're looking for the radius. If we're looking for the radius, the diameter is going to be double that of the radius. So whatever we get for the radius, let's say this is 8. Well, this is also 8, which makes it 16 all the way across, in the diameter. All right, so we're going to still use that formula. 3.14 times diameter equals circumference. So let's go ahead and just fill this out. So 3.14 D equals 39.25. And then we're going to solve this just like we did the last one. We're going to divide both sides by pi. And again, I encourage you guys to use your calculators for this. It doesn't hurt to do that. So when you do the calculations here, 39.25 divided by 3.14, you should have ended up with 12.5 meters. So again, let's kind of make sure we're clear on what we're looking for here. Now we just found the diameter. The diameter is the entire length through the circle, as long as it goes through the middle. And that's 12.5, from end to end. Now, this particular problem, we're looking for the radius. So you got to kind of keep that in mind. We're looking for the radius, so how do we figure out the radius? We'll just take that number and divide it by what? You're going to divide it by 2. And again, you can use your calculator, I don't mind, but divide that by 2. And you're going to get, well, let's just write it like this. The radius equals 6 1/4. 6 and 25 hundredths meters. All right, example 3. It says the label that wraps around a tuna can is 34.54 centimeters long. If 3 tuna cans can fit the length and 2 tuna cans fit the width of the box, find the area. And that just means using length and width of the bottom of the box. Now, this is kind of a lot going on here. So we're talking about the label of the can. Now, what I'm assuming is if you were to take that label and cut it, let's say you cut it along one of these lines here, and then lay it flat on the counter, it'd probably look something like this. Now, I'm not exaggerating here. It would be respectively, actually I probably drew that too short, but the label, again, the label goes around the can. So what's the label doing? The label is essentially looking at the circumference. And it says that the label that goes around the can is 34.54 centimeters long. So that's what it just told us. It just told us that the circumference of this tuna can, around that tuna can once, is 34 and a half, or not 34 and a half, but 34.54 centimeters around. That's what's going on there. All right, so let's figure out this diameter. We want to know what this diameter is. All right, that's the kind of the question here. That's the big question that we need to figure out. So we're going to kind of solve it the way we've been the other problems. So we've got 3.4, and I'm going to use D again. And we're going to make that equal to the circumference, which again, it doesn't use the word circumference. It just says that the label, the label wraps around the tuna can. And sometimes in math, I know sometimes things can be a little bit confusing, but if you just think about what it's asking you to do, and it's asking you just to figure out how long does that label have to be in order for it to go around the can once, well, that's essentially asking for perimeter, and perimeter is essentially when you apply it to a circle, that's going to be talking about circumference. So that's what's happening on this problem. All right, so let's go ahead and figure out the diameter. So again, just like we have been doing, we're going to divide by pi, just like we've been doing on a lot of these problems. So just do 34.54 and divide that by 3.14. And when I hit equal on my calculator, I ended up with a nice whole number, which is 11. We just figured out that can, the diameter of that can, from there to there, the circle, the diameter of that can is 11 centimeters. We're not completely finished with this problem. That only told us what the diameter is. Now the question, if we keep reading, it says this. It says if 3 tuna cans can fit the length and 2 tuna cans fit the width, find the area of the bottom of the box. Now this is a lot going on in this problem. So what that basically means, what we're essentially saying here is that the can, I'm going to draw kind of a rough sketch here, but let's say looking overhead of that box, the box can fit 3 cans this way. That's what it says. And it can fit 2 cans this way. Now, never mind my drawing here, but you see what's going on there? It can fit 3 cans lengthwise. 1 can, right? Here's another can. There's another can. So let's look at what's going on here. So what we just figured out in this problem, what we just figured out was that a can has a diameter of 11 centimeters. Well, so is this can. This can is also going to be 11 centimeters. And so is this can. That's going to be 11 centimeters. So now that, sometimes when you draw something out, just problem solving strategies right here, 101. If we talk about just drawing something out, just drawing a picture, now we can kind of see how this picture is all coming together. We have 11, 11, 11, which makes the length of that box has got to be at least 33 centimeters. All right, now we need to figure out the width. Now this shouldn't be any secret either. What's the length of this right here? Well, that's also the diameter, right? That's also going to be 11. See, it doesn't matter which way you measure the diameter, whether you measure it this way or you measure it this way. And I think the important thing, and I'm just drawing this by hand, but the important thing is that it goes through the middle. So now that we know that that's 11 and 11, well, that has to be 22 centimeters. Okay, so drawing a picture for this particular problem just makes all the difference, really. I just think in seeing it, it helps it. I think sometimes when we do a math problem, we don't always know which way to approach it. But sometimes you can't go wrong with drawing a picture, and your art skills aren't going to be graded. How well can you interpret what you just drew? That's kind of the point there. Okay, so we're still not finished with this problem. This problem is asking us to find the area of the box. Okay, and again, I'm assuming that the box is like this, and that box is a rectangle. So the area is going to be 22 times 33. That's what it's going to be. And then what do you get? You should get 726 square centimeters. So that's kind of an interesting problem right there, where we had, all we had in this particular problem, just from the very start of it, all we had was the label. That's all we knew, was that the label of that can was a little over 34.5 centimeters long. And from there, we could figure out the dimensions of a box that tuna can could fit in. That's kind of interesting when you think about it. And we are through with it. That's it. We don't need to do anything else. That is your lesson today. Make sure you guys let me know if you're confused on anything. And hopefully you guys got this. I mean, for the most part, when we were finding diameter, we were always dividing by pi. Just make sure you know what you're finding, especially like on example 2. On example 2, we were looking for the radius. So don't always assume that when you divide the circumference by pi that you're going to get the number you need, because sometimes we're looking for radius. All right. So that does it, everybody. All right. Hopefully you understood this and you get everything, and you're staying safe and staying healthy and all those things. So everyone have a great day. See you later.